All right, back here.
To get to the gentleman who had a question about reincarnation,
Mm-hmm.
they actually answer that with Forget when she's in the world of dreams trying to help the girls, and she gets hurt and gets pulled out into our reality from the world of dreams. She's like, no, this can't happen. You don't understand. She's like, I've been ripped from the pattern. I'm supposed to die and reborn. And they kind of question her about it. And she says, look, she says, I'm reborn. She says that all the great heroes are reborn, but we don't remember it at that time of our life. But you can go back and read the stories, and she names off 6 or 7 examples.
Right. I think it's pretty well established in the world that it happens, and I think you can use the Heroes of the Horn. You can also use any dreamers or wolf brothers. Can go into Tell, and they can meet with the heroes or with the wolves, who will explain some of these things that can give you actual factual evidence. I mean, the wolves can explain this is what happens. No one has to have remembered their past lives specifically to have this told to them in a way that's pretty trustworthy. So anyway, other questions? And they don't all have to be esoteric questions like this. They can be, but they don't have to be. So if you want to ask something else, you're welcome to. Okay, Matt. Is this off of online or is this you?
No, this is me.
I'm not going to tell you. Oh, never mind.
I'll ask later. This is me about Way of Kings.
Way of Kings, okay.
You mentioned the series is going to be 10 books.
I did mention that.
And I know that you have the first one coming out now.
Mm-hmm.
How do you perceive that it's going to be from a release?
Okay, release date standards.
Yeah.
On The Way of Kings is my next series. If you don't know the background of The Way of Kings, when I first got published, it was 2003. You may have read some of that story, how I decided to go and tour primarily because it was the Wheel of Time publisher and all these sorts of things, and didn't let my poor agent go and argue. He still feels bad about that, by the way. His job is to go argue and to say, Brandon's going to walk away, and I never let him do that. I'm never a credible walk threat. I mean, I go to dinner with Tom Doherty and be like, yeah, I'm going to be at tour forever. I don't ever want to leave. I love you guys. And then my agent's like, Brandon. But, yeah, I mean, where am I going to go? Anyway, my first book that I sold was Elantris, standalone epic fantasy, and Tor wanted to sign a 2-book deal with me. Tor is like this. One of the reasons I like the company is they focus a lot on building an author rather than having a blockbuster book, if that makes any sense to you. There's a big distinction there. If you sell to some companies, particularly the bigger corporate companies, it's you get this one book and they promote it, and if it doesn't take off, then you're done. Tor does not have that philosophy. Tor says we're going to buy 2 or 3 books from a new author and we're going to promote them across a period of time and try and pick up a strong audience for the author, which gives you a lot more as a writer. There's a lot more freedom there. There's a lot more freedom to actually try to do something new and innovative because you can take some chances and have time to build an audience rather than sink or swim on your first book. So Tor comes to me and says, we want to buy another book from you. Do you want to do a sequel to Elantris? And I said, actually, I don't. Not now. I might someday. But I would really rather release a first book that's a standalone. Main reason for that being, I, as a fantasy reader, know I can only juggle so many big series at once. And having been juggling the big series that I was waiting for the endings for, I always got a little bit annoyed when I saw a new book by an author I hadn't heard of that said first of 7 or something on it like that. Because how do I know that that author can do it, right? You know, I want to have a book where I can try them out and decide if if they're worth me reading, staying with them for the 7 or 10 years it'll take them to finish their series. I want to know if they can bring, each book to a satisfactory climax. I want to know if they can tell a good ending so that I don't wait for 10 years for an ending that stinks. These sorts of things. And so I explained this all matter and said, I want to have a standalone book that people know they can pick up and read and say, okay, I now know what Brandon kind of does. I know a little bit of what kind of writer he is. Hopefully each project is new and different, but yeah. And I said, but I do want to do a series. In fact, you don't grow up reading Robert Jordan without having in the back of your mind a grand epic. It just doesn't happen, right? Any of you who are writers here, I would suspect you as well have your grand epics that you wanted to tell. And I said, well, I've got this book I've been working on for a long time that I really think is awesome, so why don't we do the contract for that as well? So Elantris and a book called The Way of Kings. And he said, okay, send it to me. And I sent it to him. And then he read it and called me back horrified. Because the book was 400,000 words long, which if you have any, that's the size of Lord of Chaos. Around the size of Lord of Chaos. And it had something like 16 viewpoint characters, 30 magic systems, was the first of a 10-book epic, and was really, 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 really ambitious. And he was just scared, because he's like, I don't know if I can convince Tor to publish this. The length is going to be a real problem. Now, we as epic fantasy readers, we like long books, right? You guys like, I like long books. A long book does not necessarily mean a good book, but a long book that is good gives me that much more to love than a short book that is good, if that makes sense. That's why I love The Wheel of Time, because each one was thick and meaty, and they were good. And so, we like those, but bookstores don't particularly like long books. If you'll go and you'll look, for instance, at, and you'll compare The Wheel of Time, the new one, to another epic fantasy by, another author. Wheel of Time will cost $30 and will be 300,000 words. A 150,000 word fantasy epic will sell for 25. If you run that math as a bookstore, that means you can put two $25 books in the space of that $30 book. And so if you're looking at it simply from a marketing standpoint, the bookstores would rather the books be shorter. Because, if you go to paperback, it's even more stark, because the Wheel of Time books are like $1 more than the books that are half or even a third the length. And yet the Wheel of Time books take, double or triple the space on the shelf. And so convincing the bookstores to go along with a newer writer that is doing something that long was something that my editor was very scared of, and I was unwilling to split the book. The book did not have breakpoint in it. And so he was very hesitant. He didn't know if I was able to do a series yet, and in truth, that version of Way of Kings was, I'm getting to answer your question, by the way.
Okay.
I didn't see tons of hands jump up. That means I can talk if I want to. In truth, I wasn't ready for it yet. And I knew it, and when we talked about it, I said, I know that this book isn't quite ready. I haven't practiced enough yet to just do this. And in writing, I've mentioned this to authors, and any of those of you who are new authors. Sometimes it's better to try something a little less ambitious and succeed at it wonderfully, because the reader is not going to know. If you do, the reader's going to like a less ambitious book done in an excellent way more than they're going to like an ambitious book that fails. Now, most of the time they will like an ambitious book done excellently better than a non-ambitious one done excellently, but you can tell a really great story without having to have 30 magic systems and, and 4,500 years of history and all of these sorts of things that I was doing in this book. And I said, let me practice on a trilogy. I've got this great idea, and I outlined Mistborn for him. And I said, let me do a trilogy so I can practice juggling multiple viewpoints, so I can practice, juggling across a series. Let's do this. And so that's why I did the Mistborn series. And after the Mistborn series, I decided to do another standalone because I want to make a habit of that. And this is part of the answer to your question. I like the standalone epic fantasy as a form. We don't see enough of them, I feel, in the genre. The reason we don't is because they don't sell as well. They simply don't. But I, as a reader, like the ability to once in a while grab a complete, self-contained novel in epic fantasy and know I'm going to get a great world and magic and all of these things and characters that is going to be its own book and then be done. And give me that great immersive experience, but not require me then to keep track of all of that for the next 5 years while someone finishes, a trilogy or something like that. But I can just read the book, get that wonderful experience, and then move on. And so I like writing them. And so that's where Warbreaker came from, was me doing that.